What is going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 10 of the FanDuel Football Multiverse, where we explore various what-if scenarios and see how things could have been different across the NFL. Today, we're going to ask what if the Cowboys had let Ezekiel Elliott walk and built their backfield around Tony Pollard. I am Jim Sonis, a senior writer and analyst for NumberFire.com, joined here by JJ Zachariason, editor-in-chief of NumberFire and FanDuel. JJ, Zeke Elliott cashed in a big way last offseason, and that kept Tony Pollard bottled up after an impressive preseason in his rookie campaign. But now we're going to unleash Tony Pollard. So what are you expecting to see in this game?
I'm expecting to see a lot of the same because, as we know, Jim, running backs don't matter. So, Jim, what do you think? Do you think the line movement changed? Do you think there's any line movement in this game with Zeke leaving as opposed to Zeke being rostered on the Cowboys?
Well, based on the way that Twitter used Tony Pollard, I would assume that it went from the Cowboys favored by 3.5 to the Cowboys favored by 6.
Right,
like,
exactly.
In that sense, running backs don't matter unless they are a backup to someone Twitter does not like. That's the way rules work.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to see a lot of the same from this Cowboys offense. And I think that you can make the argument that in a game like Madden where speed often kills, we could see even an improvement from this Cowboys offense because Tony Pollard is a speedy guy.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch. Has occasional awareness issues where he will do weird things returning kicks, but hopefully those won't be in play for Madden for this week. We're going to see Washington on offense first, led by Dwayne Haskins. They are facing off with Dallas here. This one is actually in Washington, which is interesting. Tony Pollard for this game, $10,500 over on FanDuel. I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer, right, JJ? Like 10-5 for a guy in this offense?
Lock it in.
Absolutely. So we'll see how stupid that looks by the third quarter. But again, we have shifted to arcade mode permanently here on the FanDuel Football Multiverse. So should be some scoring here. Dwayne Haskins taking the opening snap. Handoff goes to Darius Geis. Picks up a couple of yards. And I guess that's Adrian Peterson. But I'll be interested, JJ, to see what this Washington offense looks like too, because there's been a lot of talk about them this offseason, you know, what the outlook is with Dwayne Haskins heading into year number 2. So could be a fun little ride here to see what they can do. I know they're not the main focus here, but it's also fun to watch younger teams, the young nucleus, perform in Madden as well.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of turnover, though, too, within that offense. There's going to be a lot of new faces. The backfield's really crowded and even more crowded now after they drafted Antonio Gibson, and they're going to use Gibson as a running back. Jordan Reed's no longer there. Not that Jordan Reed was finding the field very often anyway, but Jordan Reed's not there, so they have an opening at tight end. Maybe Logan Thomas ends up seeing a little work there, which would be fun. And then they really don't have a clear-cut number 2 wide receiver. It's really Terry McLaurin and then who? They did draft Antonio Gandy-Golden, and then they have Steven Sims, who kind of came out and broke out a little bit towards the end of last year. But there's just a lot of moving parts on this Washington team. So like you said, it's going to be interesting, especially with an inexperienced quarterback like Dwayne Haskins.
And apparently the depth charts are such that we'll see both Darius Geis and Adrian Peterson this game. Geis, 11.5. Adrian Peterson was 10,000. But back in 3rd and 11 here for Washington, Haskins completes it over the middle, but well short of the sticks. And that's going to lead to a punt here for Washington. Terry McLaurin getting his first catch of the game. He was $11,000 on FanDuel, which means we're going to see a punt here, and we're going to see this Dallas offense on the field. Unfortunately, no CeeDee Lamb yet because this is based on largely the 2019 depth charts, so no CeeDee Lamb yet in town, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this Dallas offense once we get to see them all together. Oh, Jason Garrett's back too. Overlook that.
That's
all right.
We totally forgot about the Jason Garrett narrative and the fact that he's back in Dallas. That means that we know for sure Tony Pollard's going to get the rock.
Absolutely. Although they were talking about the way the depth charts were set here, and like when they got rid of Zeke, they had to add someone in the running back depth chart. They made Tavon Austin a running back, and I kind of wish we had just run the stream of Tavon Austin as the starting running back for the Cowboys, because that would have been really fun.
Yeah, for real. Didn't he like get better whenever they made him a running back or something? Yeah.
They messaged something, and it was like Tavon Austin's rating went to like 82 when he moved into a running back, which is honestly A, hilarious, B, it makes sense, because like there's not a whole lot cooking for him as a receiver. You might as well just make the switch.
Jim, I'm going to throw a hot take. I know it's early in the game, but I'm still throwing a hot take out there. Tavon Austin, if he were to be drafted next year or this year, whatever, Tavon Austin would have had a much stronger career trajectory than when he was drafted, where he was drafted, etc. I think that
when you look at guys like Lynn Bowden and the way they're planning to use him, and even in Washington, like you were talking about before, with Antonio Gibson, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that Tavon just it's sort of like the way I view Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush was a decent pro, don't get me wrong, but Reggie Bush in today's NFL, Reggie Bush would dominate. He would be awesome.
Like Reggie Bush in a Christian McCaffrey role, where he gets 12 to 15 carries per game, but like 7 to 12 targets. That would be disgusting. And like you said, like Reggie Bush was a good pro, but he was a good pro in an NFL that didn't utilize his skill sets to the fullest.
Right. And he was in New Orleans, where that's the one team that was a little ahead of the curve in terms of how to use running backs and stuff, but they still weren't there. I mean, Reggie Bush could play the Alvin Kamara role and play it well. He would thrive. Also, we just got Jason Witten a catch, which is good to
back
see.
On the Cowboys. We got Jason Garrett back, Jason Witten back. Dak Prescott with all the time in the world tucks it down, picks up a first down. Dak Prescott, $15,000 on FanDuel, picks up a cool 0.6 FanDuel points right there, and does extend this drive for the Cowboys. And Tony Pollard once again there as well. I was thinking about Reggie Bush when USC welcomed him back to the program, and they tweeted out some highlights. You can go down a very dangerous and unproductive rabbit hole by watching Reggie Bush highlights on YouTube, and you get sucked in. There's no getting out of it once you're in there, because he was when I was in my peak college football fandom prior to the past couple of years because of betting stuff. He was the guy in my peak. As Tony Pollard makes a nice move there, breaks free.
There we go,
He's
Tony.
Across the 40, down the sideline.
Go, Tony.
Taken down inside the 25, a 43-yard rush, and there is that speed you were talking about.
I was just about to ask you what the over/under would be on Tony Pollard's rushing total, and I was going to say 89.5, and I wish I would have said it now. Yeah, now I'm taking the over. Yeah.
That was awesome. But yeah, Reggie Bush was in my peak college football watching days and peak playing the NCAA football video game. I would go to USC as an option quarterback, which as a tubby young child was not realistic. That's what I would do, just so I could play with Reggie Bush and kick Matt Leinart out of town. But definitely reminiscent. I wish I could see him in the current NFL for sure.
There goes Tony Pollard for a little negative yardage, but that first run from Tony Pollard, man, what a way to say, you know what, we don't need Ezekiel Elliott.
He got the corner and he just took off. And I think that the Tony Pollard discussion is interesting because it's not even the fact that Tony Pollard is good. And Tony Pollard very well could be good, but that offensive line is disgusting, especially because Travis Frederick is still in this game. And Frederick has retired, will not be back for 2020. They have done a nice job of trying to fill that gap up the middle. So kudos to the Cowboys on that. But in this game, Travis Frederick is still there, which means we should expect big efficiency. And even from Dak Prescott as a runner, cuts it up to, he must have been watching the Trubisky stream as he did realize, hey, I can run straight. Yeah. And Dak gets the first down.
Yeah, the offensive line definitely has helped this running game. I mean, I know Ezekiel Elliott's good. You can look at advanced metrics, and he still looks pretty good. But obviously, the offensive line has been a key / the key cog for this offense, basically for the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's probably been that. It's weird because the NFL changes over so quickly, but I think that Zach Martin contract, or what he was drafted 4 or 5 years ago. So that would make sense.
It's hard to get that kind of continuity the entire across the entire offensive line.
Oh no, it was a face mask. I thought that they held, but all right, okay.
That'd be good timing.
I thought that we had jinxed it, but we're good here. So that'll be a first down once again for the Cowboys, moving them to the 4-yard line. First and goal there, and like you said, the continuity is big because it's hard to retain that many good players at one position because they get expensive really quick. The positive is that they've had Dak Prescott on this 3rd round or 4th round pick rookie deal. So they've had the flexibility to pay up for guys like Amari Cooper and like the offensive line. But now Dak is under the franchise tag. And you wonder how much that equation will change. And the Zeke Elliott contract is a big part of that discussion too.
Yeah, for sure.
Handoff goes to Tony Pollard, and he does get the touchdown. So those of you who I think went the optimal route, took Tony Pollard at $10,500. He hits pay dirt already, around roughly 50 rushing yards, and now a touchdown already in the double digits for FanDuel points. Tyron Smith didn't even have anybody to block because that's how well they had that thing locked up.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Tony Pollard price to me was about, what would you say, $300 short or $3,000 short?
So if I were making salaries, so in my head, I don't view there as being a big usage difference or a skill difference between Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard. I know there is a skill difference, like, don't at me, bro. But I don't view there as being a big skill difference. So if you were to put Zeke Elliott in this game, where the Cowboys, again, probably 3.5 to 5 point favorites on the road against Washington, you're going to put Zeke around $13,000. Right. And I think that Tony Pollard, so yeah, you said $3,000. I would say around that number, $2,500 to $3,000 would be the appropriate mark to plug Tony Pollard in at.
Yeah. And then, I mean, especially when you look at what Washington's running backs are priced at, I mean, it makes you, it seemed like an obvious pick. I mean, we're saying this, we're not really saying this in hindsight.
No, we said it right at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. We are Tony Pollard stans, but still.
Again, I saw way too many weird stuff last year. I think maybe I just get turned off by people who Twitter obsesses over. And sometimes the discourse can get kind of weird. But I was in favor of him in this situation.
I should say this. I'm not as much a Tony Pollard stan as the idea of Tony Pollard. The idea of a backup running back where you don't spend a lot of draft equity on him to step up and just replace an elite running back
in that offensive line
at a fraction of the cost.
Like, let's say, okay, what's the worst running back you could put in that situation where I'd still like them? This is a fun exercise for me. If you put Adrian Peterson in that role today, I would like Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, how about
constantly been underway in Adrian Peterson.
How about Kalen Ballage?
No comment.
There's no way Kalen Ballage would thrive. So that's the thing with the running backs don't matter argument. Okay, so I've done a lot of research on the topic. I do believe that the running back position is an overvalued position to some teams. I think teams are coming around and understanding it a little bit and understanding it more. But the running backs don't matter. It's a very simplistic way of putting that the supply of running backs is vast. And it's easy to find running backs and plug them into your lineup and see production from them because the running back isn't the sole the sole cog in terms of getting that rushing production. So
not even the sole cog. It's that they're not the most important piece.
Right. Exactly.
At least to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean to research too.
Right.
The offensive line is so incredibly important, and that's why we see. Le'Veon Bell going from Pittsburgh to New York, going from one of the best offensive lines to last year going to one that was struggling. Of course he took time off, but he went from having to being way more efficient and way more productive to not being. And it's not like Le'Veon Bell changed that dramatically as a player. It's just that situation matters for the position more than it does at wide receiver, at tight end, etc.
Trey Quinn picking up the first down there. He was $8,000 on FanDuel, and every one of the skill position players in Washington was pretty much in the same zone, except for Terry McLaurin at $11,000 and Darius Geis at $11,500, because you had Jordan Reed, Trey Quinn, Vernon Davis, Adrian Peterson, Kelvin Harmon, Steven Sims Jr. They were all kind of in the exact same salary range, which can make things tough because you don't know the optimal way to go. But apparently the optimal way to go was Trey Quinn because he picks up another first down there. Dwayne Haskins moving the football and trying to tie this game up as we approach the end of the first quarter. But Haskins looking good, I think benefiting from the arcade mode versus the simulation mode, but moving the football at least, which is good to see for sure.
Yeah, hopefully we see at least some scoring from Washington.
Absolutely. As the first quarter does come to a halt, once again, we're doing these streams twice per week now right here on the FanDuel YouTube page. We are doing them every Wednesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube page. We also have a lot of our podcasts go up there. The Heat Check Fantasy Podcast and Covering the Spread, our betting podcast, go up there. 2 Heat Checks per week for PGA and NASCAR, and also 1 episode of Covering the Spread. Tomorrow here on the FanDuel Football Multiverse, we're going to ask, what if the Giants had taken Sam Darnold instead of Saquon Barkley? It is NFC East week here on the FanDuel Football Multiverse because they are facing the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's NFC East week, JJ, but also the running back value week on the FanDuel Football Multiverse.
I mean, it's going to be Wayne Gallman season, Jim. I'm excited to see that.
Every season is Wayne Gallman season. He is a shining light in our dark, dark, dark world. And I look forward. I'm more excited about Wayne Gallman as a feature back than I am about Tony Pollard. That's where my head is at.
Yeah. Okay. So just so everyone knows, Jim last year, when Saquon got hurt, Wayne Gallman stepped in. And that first game that he stepped in, he had at least two touchdowns. Yeah, he had two touchdowns at least. But he balled out for the most part. I mean, he definitely exceeded value in DFS. And Jim was way overweight on Wayne Gallman. I mean, to be fair, the market was way underweight.
He was 12.5% in the Sunday million.
Yeah, it was not what we would expect. Because I was overweight too, but you were even more so than I was.
I'm not going to say what my exposure was because I am embarrassed about it. But
well, now, I mean, you can't be embarrassed in hindsight. It's a beautiful thing now, but that's why, Jim. So you guys know.
Question my roster construction abilities if I told you what the number was.
So you guys know that's why Jim has this weird.
It's not weird. He's the best running back
Gallman.
ever. He's a generational running back. And I feel no reservations in saying that. Trey Quinn, generational wide receiver, apparently, as he gets his third reception. But I think that the Wayne Gallman situation for tomorrow's stream is similar to the Tony Pollard one. So, hey, you're sitting here right now watching the stream. You can go to the FanDuel lobby and fill out a contest for tomorrow's stream. You should probably use Wayne Gallman for that game. He's probably not going to do well because I'm saying this. He is $9,500, even cheaper than Tony Pollard was. You can trash me all you want in chat after this blows up my face, but you should use Wayne Gallman tomorrow.
It's a very logical play to play Wayne Gallman.
Absolutely. Dwayne Haskins. Oh, he gets another one. That was Paul Richardson with the touchdown. Not a bad drive from Dwayne Haskins. He peppered Trey Quinn all the way down the field. Hits Paul Richardson for the touchdown. Paul Richardson, $9,500. And not a lot of Terry McLaurin, but Dwayne Haskins doesn't need him right now.
I'm literally Googling because I can't remember who. Okay, so he's a free agent. I couldn't remember if he signed a deal or not because I think I'm thinking of Josh Doxson and how he went to the Jets.
Yeah.
And I was figuring out where Paul Richardson is right now, and he's a free agent. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss a signing.
You don't have Google alerts set up for P. Rich?
Right, I do not.
Oh, weird. I definitely do.
Shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. But Washington does tie things up here at 7 apiece, which means we get to see the Cowboys back out there, led by Dak Prescott. Haven't seen a lot of Amari Cooper yet. Not a lot of Michael Gallup, but again, an interesting offense heading into this year. JJ, Dak Prescott has, I think, like if you were to craft a situation for a quarterback to have for fantasy football, there aren't many other boxes Dak Prescott could check. Now, the one thing I personally would vouch for is a faster pace on offense. They're not as bad as they used to be, but they could still up the pace a little bit. Like they're not outlierishly great. If they had that, Dak would be frightening from a fantasy perspective. But as it stands right now, he's still an elite fantasy asset for 2020, right?
Yeah, he's my QB3. So we post my rankings on the FanDuel social media platforms, and I posted I actually did a mean tweets type thing, roast my rankings, so you guys can check that out. It's probably on the YouTube page too. But my quarterback rankings went out, and one of the comments back that I read on that show on that video was someone getting mad that Dak Prescott was my QB3. When Dak Prescott was the QB2 in fantasy football last year. He was the QB3 in points per game because I think Deshaun Watson had more. But Dak was the QB2 in fantasy last year. There's this really weird divide / people, these non-believers in Dak and what he can do. And so you're looking at a situation where Dak, they're in a much more pass-friendly offense than they were, before they changed offense coordinators. And now you add CeeDee Lamb to this offense, and you remove Jason Witten, which is probably an upgrade to go to more Blake Jarwin. But you have the weapons. His weapons are unbelievable. It's hard to imagine Dak not paying off and being a top 5 quarterback this season.
And I think that the aversion to Dak, outside of some other factors we could potentially mention, part of it I think revolves around the sentiment around Dak coming into the league as he takes off here and picks up another first down, the third first down he's picked up with his legs. But I think people are very hesitant to buy in to lower round picks. And I get it, because lower round picks at quarterback are a lot less likely to be good players in the NFL. NFL teams, despite the flack we give them, are good at evaluation. But I think that we are too hesitant to buy in when the sample size continues to expand and Dak Prescott is good year after year after year. He did have that one down year, but for the most part, Dak Prescott for a long time now has been a very good quarterback in the NFL. I get the reasoning behind, again, the reasoning that revolves around draft stock. There are other reasons that people are hesitant towards Dak that that are less logical, but I think that I get it, but I feel like at some point you got to acknowledge the production.
Yeah, I mean, what is he going to play 10 years in the league and you're still going to feel that, and play at a high level and you're still going to feel that way?
I mean, people have done that with Russell Wilson, and he's been in the league since
no, you're right.
2012 or so.
People did that with Tony Romo. Tony
right.
Romo is one of the most efficient quarterbacks of all time, but it was, the botched snap that everyone focused on. It was the fact that he wasn't a draft pick or a high draft pick. So people have done that in the past for sure. There's no doubt.
Right.
It's just wild to me. Once you get a 2 or 3 year sample, you generally know what kind of quarterback you're working with.
And with Dak Prescott, they're pretty good. Another handoff to Tony Pollard. Big room, gets the block from Amari Cooper. Oh, I thought he was going to break it.
Me too.
I guess that was Jamiz Olawale. But I thought it's like Amari Cooper out there throwing haymakers downfield. But it was Jamiz Olawale, and that rushing prop looking pretty tasty for Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I didn't say that,
right?
Because that would have been a horrible line. The line should have been 189.5 yards.
Jamiz Olawale, though, the true MVP of the Dallas Cowboys. I think we could say that for sure.
That cutback was nasty from Tony.
Absolutely. And again, Mike, you said this at the very beginning. Speed is so important in a game like Madden. And once again, Tony Pollard just keeps on ripping off these long runs as we get down to the 2-minute warning. But Tony Pollard, not just like a good DFS play, but right now I think he has to be the leader in the clubhouse to be the MVP, the optimal MVP for this game.
Yeah, what I'm loving about this is that this is the first. I guess we had the Leonard Fournette one earlier, where they didn't have Leonard Fournette, but this is one of the first and only running back replacement games that we've done, and we're seeing the running back just go absolutely bonkers, and it makes me happy.
Jason Witten doing very Jason Witten things, catching a ball 8 yards downfield and turning it into an 8-yard catch. That is exactly what Jason Witten does. 2nd and 2. Nice spot here for potentially another run for Tony Pollard. Dak calls out the signals, and they are going to throw here. And that one is complete down inside the 10-yard line. Michael Gallup on the reception. I don't think Amari Cooper has a reception yet, but given the way things operated in Dallas last year, that probably can't be a huge surprise because Cooper didn't have some outrageous market share. Here, Michael Gallup, like in the games they played, I believe Gallup may have had like 1 or 2 more targets than Cooper, so this shouldn't be a huge surprise here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looked like Dak was going to run instead.
Oh my goodness!
Into the second row. I thought he was going to tuck it down, but I think realized at the last second that wasn't going to work either, so he just chucked it.
I love how the stadium is full. Like we ever see that in Washington.
It makes me so nervous, and I hate it. Oh, I thought you meant because of like coronavirus.
Well, that too.
Like I watch old movies and I see people like interacting, and I'm like, stop touching. Like just get away from each other. Like just makes me so like anxious. There's Tony Pollard, breaks 1 tackle, can't break a second though.
Here's the real question for you and for chat, Jim.
All right.
For everyone watching, when you dream at night, do you social distance in your dreams?
Usually when I dream, it's of people trying to break into my house. So I guess I don't know why that's.
We need a psychologist to come on here and start to break that down.
I don't know why that's always a dream. It's always a dream. But no. So I guess technically yes, but it's because I'm in my house.
See, I have like parties in my dreams. So like, we're hanging out and I'm.
Are you having a party because Jason Witten just caught a touchdown after falling down?
There we go. I often have dreams where I become a professional baseball player too.
Okay. I've never had that one.
Specifically baseball too, and I'm kind of going through the journey. Sometimes I'm on American Idol in my dreams.
I feel bad for trashing Jason Witten now because that was a sick catch.
That was a sick catch.
Dak threw behind him.
It's being completely down. Yeah, being completely downplayed by what is going on with Dwayne Haskins. Someone needs to check Dwayne Haskins right now. What is going on? What is?
Was he like looking for a friend, hiding behind the bench?
Did he drop his mouthpiece or something?
Someone check Dwayne Haskins. Just say, you all right there, man? Like, we need to check on Dwayne Haskins. Don't check on Jason Witten, though, because he's just feeling it right now.
I'm kind of mad that I spoke over Jason Witten's touchdown there by talking about me dreaming about being on American Idol and becoming a professional baseball player, because that catch was nasty. It was a great catch, as you said.
I've never had a singing dream. I've only had singing nightmares because the thought of singing in public horrifies me.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I don't know why that one is weird. The baseball thing at least kind of makes sense, but the American Idol one is very strange.
Madden not as kind to Jason Garrett's physique as they were to Andy Reid.
I thought the same thing. He's thick with 2 C's.
He kind of Bryson DeChambeau'd it. Like, Bryson DeChambeau got swole. Jason Garrett, I don't know if it was muscle, but like he looked kind of jacked. So either he had like a total like a Bowflex weight unit in his basement, whereas Andy Reid had the treadmill, or they're just being mean to Jason Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, he looks thick.
Yeah,
Jason Garrett looks thick. That was my first thought whenever I saw him at the start of this stream.
We know he gets the arm workouts in from clapping, so I feel like he should have like some thick trunks coming out of his shoulders.
His forearms have got to be nasty from all that clapping.
Absolutely. Terry McLaurin looks like he's leading the huddle, so apparently Dwayne Haskins has.
He really was vomiting on the sideline.
He's looking for whatever he was searching for purpose, searching for meaning in life. I don't know what it may be.
That was the weirdest cutscene that we've seen in this game.
I love it, though. I guess he's back. Maybe they should move to McLaurin. I don't know. Dwayne Haskins looked good in that last drive. So 57 seconds left, 3 timeouts left, and of course, establish that run with your 38-year-old running back. Let's go.
If you were to, would you have played AP over, or sorry, AD? People hate whenever I say AP because it's not his real nickname.
I put someone for that before, so I equally at fault in this.
Would you have gone Peterson or Geis if you were choosing one of them in this game?
You know the T-Pain song, All the Above?
Yeah, of course.
Or no, Gorilla Z, I think.
Oh, I was going to say, Mano T-Pain, All the Above?
I would go the other way and say none the above and just avoid it. Because, like, it's different for a single game for DFS, but my general philosophy is that I hate spread out production for running backs. I know it's not like a weird philosophy by any means, but it's so hard to replicate the production of a bell cow. And Tony Pollard was going to be a bell cow. I know you weren't asking relative to him, but when you're talking about Adrian Peterson and Darius Geis, the reason that they're in a split backfield is that they're going to divide up the work. And what that means is that, as Dwayne Haskins, that's going to get charged to Brandon Sheriff, but that's on Haskins there for hanging on to it.
Yeah, that's bad.
As Marty B gets the sack, but I think that my general philosophy is that anytime there's a committee, there's going to be a division of the high leverage touches, and that means pass catching and it means touchdowns. And if I don't know where the high leverage looks are going to go, I'm not going to go there. Yeah. So if I had to pick, I probably would have gone with Peterson because he was a cheaper option at $10,000, whereas Geis is $11,500. But realistically, I would have just avoided it altogether if I were playing DFS for this contest.
Yeah, I feel you. And in DFS, it's obviously a lot different too.
Correct.
Because the player pool is everyone, right? Whenever you're playing. Whereas in a fantasy league, you're not going to have the luxury of just saying, I'm only going to have bell cow running backs on my team.
I've made that mistake in season long because so much of my focus is DFS. It's hard for me to divorce myself from that mindset of I only want bell cows. Yeah. Everyone else can go away, get bent, because I don't want to go there. And it's hard to just stop thinking that way.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Tariq Cohen has way more value in a season-long league than he would, week to week on FanDuel.
Absolutely. 4th and 2, so Washington will punt here. 7 seconds left. It goes out of bounds. So 6 seconds left for Dallas. 31-yard line, 1 timeout left. I'd assume that they probably won't do a bunch here, but Dallas will also receive the opening kick of the second half, up by a touchdown here, 14-7. Touchdowns by Tony Pollard and Jason Witten. On the Dallas side, Paul Richardson got the touchdown for Washington, and Dallas will spread them out here. Let's see if Dak can let that puppy fly. He's going to tuck it down and run. Can he make a guy miss? Nope, he cannot, and that will run out the first half. Dallas goes up 14-7 at the end of the first half. Again, touchdowns by Tony Pollard, Jason Witten, and Paul Richardson. Do not forget, we are back here once again tomorrow. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern here on the FanDuel YouTube page. We'll be doing What If the New York Giants had drafted Sam Darnold instead of Saquon Barkley. Make sure you note the roster changes on that one because similar to this one, which will be up on the Multiverse landing page, they had to change some things around based on running back depth charts, but it will be Wayne Gallman at quarterback for the Giants and Sam Darnold at quarterback taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. JJ, any big takeaways for you from that opening half of play?
I was just thinking, I'm kind of shocked by how much Dak Prescott ran the ball. I think he had 4 rushes in the first half, which we haven't seen scrambles to that degree in these streams.
No.
And Dak, of course, he's a rushing quarterback. He's mobile, but he's not Lamar Jackson. And we've seen Lamar Jackson a couple times now, and he hasn't even run the ball at that frequency. So kind of surprised to see that. But it was good to see Tony Pollard dominate. I'd expect more of that here in the second half.
Especially with a 7-point lead and the potential for things to continue that way. Dak, I think, is interesting from a rushing perspective because his total rush per game numbers are not that high. Right. But the thing that I love about Dak from a fantasy perspective is that he tends to run most often when it matters most, specifically in the red zone. Right. Like Dak Prescott's rushing numbers, like from a percentage, his rushing share in the non-red zone versus when they're getting close to the goal line, I've never looked at this, but anecdotally it feels like it shoots through the roof when they are close to scoring.
Yeah, I could look it up, but I'll do that later. I'll tweet about it. How about that?
Yes. 6 touchdowns rushing for Dak Prescott each of his first 3 years. Only 3 last year, which is interesting. He did run a little bit less overall last year. There was also that shoulder injury at one point, but usually when he runs, it's in a pretty impactful spot, which can jack up fantasy in a big way. There's Tony Pollard, his first carry of the second half. Stuffed pretty quickly. He's already over that the 84.5. I believe it's 84.5 but 87 rushing yards.
89.5. He's not quite there yet, Jim.
But if you take away the 43, which we can't do, because I always hate those arguments. If you take away all their best plays, they average 3.3 yards. Everyone averages 3.3 yards per rush. And you take away their best ones.
Right.
That's how it goes. There he gets the edge, and he is off to the races again, out to the 40-yard line. Now he's over 100 yards, 10 carries, 101 yards, and a touchdown for Tony Pollard. And the interesting thing, JJ, about this game is that we haven't seen Pollard involved in the passing game yet. But if this hypothetical world were realistic, Tony Pollard probably would be a guy who gets 5-ish targets per game in at running back. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a program where he came from, Memphis, that's sort of produced these highly athletic, really explosive, look at that, pass catcher sort of hybrid type players. With Tony Pollard, you had Darrell Henderson, and then this past year you have Antonio Gibson. They're guys that can play a wide receiver or have that ability to a degree. I think that realistically, Tony Pollard made more sense almost as a wide receiver than Antonio Gibson did.
Yeah.
But Gibson obviously playing running back too. But that's really the skill set that Pollard brings, is that he can be a great pass catcher. I
think that the Ron Rivera quotes about Antonio Gibson were so interesting. He compared him to Christian McCaffrey, and I don't think he was saying that they're going to use him in that way, but that at least gives you the hope that he'll be used in a way where he's getting those money touches we were talking about before.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want a realistic high-end comp for, doesn't get that third and inches run, a realistic high-end comp for Antonio Gibson, not a huge program that he's coming from, production's different, but explosive, athletic, and then also can catch passes really well in the backfield. David Johnson would be the guy that, to me, he comps closest with. Right. But again, I also think that what we could see on the field is sort of a Ty Montgomery plus, where Montgomery, played that role where he's a wide receiver and then he started playing running back. But I think that Antonio Gibson probably isn't going to be this 15-plus carry workhorse, right. But maybe a 5 to 10 carry and then 5 to 7 target type player.
How are you projecting that backfield? Because I feel like that would be a nightmare to try to figure out and divvy things out for them.
It's an absolute nightmare. To me, I think Geis is the best bet. But again, it's not really, it's not like it's that attractive of a spot to be. It's not like Washington's projected to score a ton of points. But I think Geis makes the most sense, but that's where his ADP sits, is that he's the number one running back in terms of ADP. To me, I love throwing darts at Antonio Gibson. I think that he's, he has that upside and that potential just given his athletic profile, to be and to make that David Johnson impact, like I said. So to me, you can get him, in the double-digit rounds pretty late in drafts and best ball drafts. So to me, Antonio Gibson's the best value, but I think the best overall player and the way that things project out is Darius Geis.
Yeah, and we saw times last year after Geis came back from injury where they weren't giving him huge snap shares, but they were giving him they were trying to see what he could do, which I think was encouraging for him going forward to this year. The concern is that in drafting Gibson, they're kind of saying, we don't expect to give him a huge passing down role. And that's been a thing we've been talking about with Darius Geis since he got drafted, was will he ever be this pass catching back? Because at the time they had Chris Thompson, Darius Geis, there was a lot of talk about him as a pass catcher coming out of college too. And now when you bring in a guy like Gibson, I feel like it kind of solidifies the fact that Geis is never going to morph into being one of those guys who has an every down role.
Yeah, he might just be like a 25 reception type guy if he ends up getting the quote workhorse role in that offense because of Gibson.
Yeah. Haskins completes it to Peterson, but it is short of the stick. So 4th down and 6, 14-7. The Cowboys on top as we are here in the third quarter. Touchdown scored earlier in the game by Tony Pollard and Jason Witten and Paul Richardson on the Washington side. So if you were investing in Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, not a whole lot cooking yet. Definitely a time. And we've kind of seen this, JJ, for all these streams where the target distributions are spread out for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's not super shocking just given what we've seen in the past.
So Washington will punt here, give it back to Dallas, who didn't do a whole lot on their opening drive of the second half. Another boomer of a punt there. Nice little move by, I think that's Randall Cobb, returning the punt there for the Cowboys. And he's taken down after a couple-yard return, 35-yard line for the Dallas Cowboys. We talked about Dak Prescott from a fantasy perspective for this year. Let's talk about the wide receivers, because the efficiency is going to be there. I can say that definitively right now. The problem is they got a lot of good dudes, and that's concerning. So, JJ, how do you balance that? Knowing that the efficiency when the targets do go there will be good, but you don't know how many actual targets there will be.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I think it's a little bit overstated about how competitive the target shares are in that offense, because it does truly funnel to very particular guys. Zeke will get his. He'll get like a 10 to 15% target share, whatever.
What are you doing, Tony?
Tony, where are you going, buddy? Tony.
He wants to get back under 89 rushing yards.
So
now, help us out here.
So Zeke will get his out of the backfield. And then if you look at what happened last year, which I think you can compare to what's going to happen this year, CeeDee Lamb's going to slot into the slot. And that's where Randall Cobb was last year. Now, the Cowboys threw a lot last year.
Yeah.
And so they could see a little bit of regression there. But Randall Cobb playing in the slot saw 83 targets last season. So it wouldn't shock me if CeeDee Lamb ends up getting 80 to 90 targets. But there's room for growth there because CeeDee Lamb is better than Randall Cobb. I think we can probably say that, at least this version of Randall Cobb. So, I think it might hurt Gallup a little bit, maybe hurt Amari just a little bit. But overall, I think all three of those guys can still basically like meet value in fantasy. I will say, I think Amari of the three is probably being overdrafted the most.
Yeah. Because
I don't see the gap being as significant between Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, especially given the fact that last year they had pretty similar per game numbers. And now with CeeDee Lamb, people are just thinking that Gallup is going to go away. But Michael Gallup's he did that in his second year. He's a third-year guy, super talented, and he's not going to get that number one coverage that Amari Cooper's going to see.
Oh, get it, Dak. There you go. Another first down picked up by Dak Prescott with his legs. He got 3.8 FanDuel points from rushing alone. He also has the 4 points from the touchdown. So although the passing production for Dak hasn't been a whole lot thus far, he's generating FanDuel points. Not enough yet to justify the salary at $15,000, but he's getting there, and he's putting things together to allow himself to be in a position to be worth the DFS coin if he were to get another passing touchdown or if he had a rushing touchdown too.
Yeah,
Going
I know.
back to the
Sorry. I know I mentioned he had 4 rushes in the first half. I guess he had 3. So sorry for that misspeak.
I think that the one player who gets a bit overlooked as being a risk as a result of the players the Cowboys have brought in is actually Ezekiel Elliott, because there were stretches last year where Zeke didn't get hardly any targets. And from a fantasy perspective, when you are, paying the piper as much as you need to get Zeke Elliott on your roster, you need those targets. And I think that when you have Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb to throw the ball to, you have less of an incentive to throw the ball to Zeke Elliott, something we already saw with Kellen Clemens last year, and that worries me a bit. I am not willing to move Zeke down very much in fantasy as a result of that, but it factors into my head when I'm weighing Zeke versus other guys at the top. I think that's something to consider. I'm not sure if it's enough to knock him down, but it's something that is at least in my head of a potential path to disappointment for Zeke.
Yeah, the thing with Zeke is you need him to hit that touchdown upside, which is very possible because this offense could easily end up being the best offense in football this year. So, Zeke is going to have all the scoring opportunities in the world. So I think that I don't know what the sports book is saying, but it wouldn't shock me if he's up there in terms of a favorite to lead the league in touchdowns this year.
Now we're starting to see Michael Gallup come through, his 3rd catch of the game, and picking up some yardage here for both himself and for Dak. It's still not a ton of passing production for this Cowboys offense, but they haven't really needed it because Tony Pollard is over 100 yards still, despite that 10-yard loss he had earlier. But Gallup, 3 receptions now. Again, I don't think Cooper has anything as of yet. Jason Witten, the lone receiving touchdown for this team. Randall Cobb has not really been a major factor as of yet. But Cowboys trying to score again. If Tony Pollard gets a 2nd touchdown, that may kind of lock him in as the MVP. And that one, I believe, went to Cobb. Yeah, it did go to Cobb. So a catch for Randall Cobb there, his first of the game, 8-yard completion. But if Pollard scores again, you can pen him in as being the optimal MVP for this game.
Yeah, I would think so too.
14-7, Cowboys going back to early era Jason Garrett, where they're running 19 times versus 11 passes. Dak goes play action, trying to find someone. Plenty of time in the pocket.
Dump it to Tony Pollard. He's sitting right there.
He's going to get another first down. That's 15 first downs and a face mask penalty. Dak is if we were looking at the net expected points numbers for Dak Prescott in this game, picking up all these first downs, it'd be off the charts.
Man, he had Tony. I love Tony Pollard just sitting there blocking when he had literally 15 yards to
when you
run.
can block air, JJ, you got to do it.
Yes.
You absolutely got to do it. 1st and goal here for the Cowboys, 8-yard line. Those of you who use Tony Pollard, lock it, because this could be a good drive for you now. Still time, though, for Washington. If you were someone who did use Paul Richardson at $9,500, want to get some production out of him, or maybe save face a bit on Terry McLaurin, still time. So those lineups certainly not dead yet. Pollard, dot in the I, gets the carry up the gut inside the 5 to the 3-yard line. Back up to 109 yards and a touchdown, 16.9 FanDuel points for Tony Pollard so far in this game.
One thing to keep in mind too with Terry McLaurin, I would assume that the rating isn't as strong for him because
that's true. I mean, it does include the end of year roster, so it got better as the year went along. But I also could see a situation where because he's that was a disgusting catch. We were talking about how Amari hadn't showed up yet, and there he does. Amari Cooper gets the touchdown, and that puts the Cowboys up 20-7. Let's watch this again. Nice. That was a bullet from Dak, but Amari adjusts, makes the catch, toes in bounds. It's a sweet tutty, and the pylon cam confirms it. That's awesome. But going back to Terry McLaurin, it is the end of season roster, so it does account for how good he was during the year. But I could also see a situation where it may not fully account for, how good Terry McLaurin was, because sometimes it was hard to tell. Because after the coaching changes made in Washington, they ran a lot. And it was really frustrating because I loved Terry McLaurin, the talent, but I was I just couldn't justify using him in daily fantasy because the expected target number for him was so low. And it wasn't because of target share, it was because the offense just wanted to run. So I wanted to use Terry McLaurin, but I couldn't just because I hated that offense as a whole so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, it's probably going to be somewhat of a headache this year too. But he's so talented that it's hard to just completely fade him.
Right. Ron Rivera taking over as head coach for Washington. Definitely a defensive guy, which is not necessarily something that we want if we're trying to get a wide receiver to go nuts. But we've seen Rivera be adaptive based on his personnel on offense, based on what his offensive coordinator wants to do. So I think it's at least better than the situation that was in place last year for Washington's offense. Down by 2 scores here, 4:19 left, but all 3 timeouts, so game definitely not over yet as the kickoff returned out to the 28-yard line. There's Steven Sims. JJ, he's gotten buzz at times, and again, like you said, a lot of targets toward the end of last year. I'm hesitant to buy in on Steven Sims because they invested a lot in that position, specifically with Antonio Gandy-Golden, and I think that Gibson will at least have some snaps split out wide too. So it's hard for me personally to get invested in Steven Sims. Is he anyone, or is he someone who interests you in the late rounds in season long or no?
He's fine. I think that I'd probably prefer him in best ball, so I wouldn't have to try to predict when those big games were going to happen. He's fine.
Oh, man.
Whoa.
I thought Paul Richardson was going to get that.
So I don't think he's a bad pick per se, given what we saw down the stretch last year, but it's not really an offense in general that I want to like heavily invest in.
Yeah, and that's something you've talked about a lot in the breakout pieces that you've written for Number Fire and the podcast you've done, is you talk about finding offenses that can produce points. Now I'm going to go on a limb here and guess that Washington does not fit that criteria.
No, they don't. I don't have my projections in front of me, but I think they're bottom 5 in projected touchdowns this year. So it's not like, we're looking at a Patrick Mahomes-led offense. Steven Sims is on the Chiefs, and as a starter, Steven Sims is like a top 5 round pick probably. But
right.
That's just not what we're seeing.
Absolutely. Jordan Reed gets a second reception. Nice to see him back on a virtual football field where injuries do not exist. Picking up some yardage there. Once again, we are back here again tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern time on the FanDuel YouTube page. Giants against the Eagles. NFC East week continues. What if the Giants had taken Sam Darnold instead of Saquon Barkley? So we'll see what Sam Darnold looks like on the New York Giants offense. Haskins takes a snap. Ooh, I thought that was a good pass. Went through the hands of the intended receiver. Haskins looked pretty good in this game. Looked okay at times last year. There are a couple of concerns I have personally about Dwayne Haskins. The first one is that we were talking about draft stock for quarterbacks before, and he fell outside the top 10 picks. It's not a good sign when quarterbacks fall outside the top 10 because, again, we give NFL evaluators a lot of crap for their missed evaluations, and McLaurin gets a catch there, but in general, they are good at picking quarterbacks, and Haskins fell outside the top 10. That's a concern, and coming out of college with almost no production because, well, I guess production on a per pass attempt basis, he had a lot, but from a starts perspective, there wasn't a lot there, and that's something that is a warning sign for quarterbacks who wind up being first-round picks. A lot of the busts are guys who didn't have a lot of experience in college. Haskins has both those red flags in his corner. JJ, did you see anything from Dwayne Haskins last year? I know that there were stretches, but is he someone you are expecting to make a leap this year, or what's your overall evaluation there?
I think it's tough. Usually we see we get some general sense of if a guy's going to be good or not after their rookie season. And with Dwayne Haskins, I just feel like we didn't get a good glimpse of what he is. Yeah. And so to me, he's someone that is just a complete question mark. Whereas if we would have seen him maybe the whole season, we'd feel better about the sample size. But I just think there's so many moving parts with Washington, including the coaching staff, that it's just a wait and see. There's no reason to invest in him in fantasy because the quarterback position is so deep. But I think it's just more of a wait and see. I'm not really expecting the world, though, because generally speaking, of the quarterbacks who are elite and really good in the NFL, they were very good from the start, at least comparatively speaking. So with Haskins, we didn't see that for sure. So
I remember you wrote that piece like for the first time on Number Fire after Geno Smith's rookie year, and I was like heartbroken because like I had a crush basically on Geno Smith because I was a Jets fan. I was very stupid. I was in college still. We don't need to re-talk about that. But you wrote that after Geno's rookie year, and he'd had like these final 4 games where he looked awesome. And you wrote the piece, and I was like, dang it. Like, I want to believe in Geno, but, like, this is good data, and I can't just ignore that. It made me so sad.
Yeah, so, really what we've seen is during their rookie year, especially the first 2 years also, but during their rookie year at least, if they're really not good, if there's inefficiency problems, the only guys that end up panning out are the ones who get a change of scenery. So Alex Smith is a really good example of that. We just saw Ryan Tannehill potentially turn the corner. And Drew Brees to a degree is an example of that because, he was fine, but he wasn't Drew Brees when he was with the Chargers. And he had that change of scenery going to New Orleans. So that's really what you need and what you look for. If someone struggled the first year or 2 of their career, there's still some potential, but they really need that change of scenery in order to hit that. I guess, to be fair, Jared Goff is one example as well. But he needed Sean McVay to come in. That's
a change of scenery from Jeff Fisher. That's
exactly.
Another completion for Haskins. And one thing that's a good mark for Haskins, that Pro Football Focus did give him good marks last year. I think he might have had the best mark of all rookies, and PFF is good at what they do. So that is a good thing for Haskins for sure. I am still skeptical, but if we're going to paint a full picture, it's worth mentioning he did have good marks there. One underrated storyline is that Paul Richardson has a chance to unseat Tony Pollard as the MVP of this game. If you can get a touchdown here, and Haskins ignoring Geis, but he does, I guess that's Peterson. He ignored him. Peterson was just staring him down, like making direct eye contact with, I dare you not to throw it to me. But Haskins eventually did, and Adrian Peterson gets the touchdown, and that makes it a 1-score game once again.
Yeah, he was just sitting there. I mean, look, if Adrian Peterson was sitting there like that, I don't know if I'd throw it to him either right away because we know that he hasn't had the softest hands in the world throughout his career.
Yeah. I remember back early career, Adrian Peterson had the worst fumble issues I have ever seen. Outside of like freshman year Jonathan Taylor, it was first year Jonathan Taylor.
Don't forget Tiki Barber is the go-to for that. He had to change his holding, how he held the ball, and
hold it up by his chin strap.
Yeah.
That was wild. 40 seconds left. Washington has 3 timeouts left, but I'd have to assume they go for the futile onside kick, unless you're like Younghoe Koo, apparently. But regardless, they're down by 7 points here. 3 timeouts left. Swole Jason Garrett sending his players out there, try to recover the onside kick.
What are the odds that they get this?
13.3%.
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
I think it might even be lower than that.
I think they're going to kick it deep. Okay. Oof. I saw Cobb back there, and I got really concerned.
Yeah, you were on. Oh, wow.
I was on tilt immediately. Is that Gallup again? Wow. Okay, so Michael Gallup having a huge game. Tony Pollard didn't do a whole lot after that initial first drive, but still over 100 yards, 109 yards, a touchdown. Has the potential to add to that here. And JJ, I think that. Again, it's Madden, and it's a great offensive line. It's arcade mode. All those caveats being said, not a bad game for Tony Pollard.
No, it's running backs don't matter. No, they do matter. There's some nuance to that take, but generally speaking, they don't matter.
I hope Chad is going ballistic on you right now. 39 seconds left for the Cowboys to try to close this one out. Pollard gets the carry there, cuts outside. Not a whole lot cooking. May have gotten a yard. Taken down. Washington takes their first timeout, so still 2 timeouts left, and that means that they prevent a first down here. They could still get the ball back with about 30 seconds left.
I also want to say with that take, with the running backs don't matter take, I do want to be clear that I want running backs to get paid.
Oh, yeah.
Because they destroy their bodies, and it's a shame that it's a rookie deal situation, and then they're gone for the most part.
Right.
So I do want running backs to get paid. That's for sure. I just don't think that that's the optimal way to build a roster.
I think the other thing, too, to mention is that the equation is slightly different if that running back is actively a plus in the passing game. Christian McCaffrey may not be worth his salary, but he is worth more than a lot of running backs because of how good he is as a pass catcher. Because, again, I think that the entire mindset of the NFL is optimize your passing offense, optimize your passing defense, and then fill in the rest if you can, effectively.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, though, to be fair, you know, a wide receiver, basically like an average wide receiver or a tight end target is still more valuable than a target to the best running backs in football. But you can't just always do that. You can't just, you know, the argument of you know, passing is so much more efficient than rushing. There's going to be a break-even point at some point where you can't just throw the ball 100% of the time. Right. We don't really know where that is because
probably 90%.
Yeah, like no team has really tested it. And obviously personnel matters and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's a very, very elementary basic way of just just generalizing. But at the same time, you know, there's something to the idea of running backs not mattering.
All right, 22 seconds left, 89 yards for Dwayne Haskins. He's had a pretty good game so far, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. The passing touchdowns to Paul Richardson and to Adrian Peterson. Let's see what he can do here.
Interception on this drive is minus 350.
Okay. I would bet against it.
Yeah, I would bet against it. It was more so. a realistic line interception. Given it's arcade mode and we don't see them very often, I'd say like plus 450.
Is it? If it's Phillip Rivers though, it's minus like 1,500.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is the most classic Phillip Rivers scenario that could possibly be concocted. Down 7, late in the day. His team has played hard, but they're trailing for probably some weird reason that is out of Phillip Rivers' control. Yep. Let's see Dwayne Haskins get his Phillip Rivers on in the positive sense. 2nd and 10, 18 seconds left. Haskins drop back to pass. Hey, it's arcade mode. Anything can happen. He's going to lob it deep down the field. Hail Mary, and there's a penalty. Oh. It got picked, but there was a penalty. I think it got picked.
I hope it's PI. Please be PI.
Please be on the defense. Oh, my goodness. It is on the defense.
Oh, my goodness.
Byron Jones,
no! What are you doing, buddy?
He got paid, and he is like, I'm done, guys. Let's pack it in. I'm going to South Beach. All you jokers can deal with this here.
They never call that PI. Wait, why is the defense out there right now?
Oh, because of the interception. Yeah. Okay, so now it's 1st and 10 from the 35. Come on, Dwayne. Let's do it, buddy. I'm actively rooting for you. Objectivity is overrated. What are you doing, Dwayne? Why would you throw in the middle of the field? Oh, my goodness.
That's game.
Rookie mistake, and that'll do it as Dallas defeats Washington 21-14. I get it, Jay. I get it. As he spikes the clipboard. But the Cowboys win 21-14. JJ, Tony Pollard, huge game here. Over 100 yards and a touchdown. Any final takeaways for you from this game where we saw what happened if Zeke Elliott had not re-signed with the Cowboys?
Running backs are replaceable.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Tony Pollard is apparently really good and really fast, and that is definitely noteworthy as well. So the big game here was by Tony Pollard. Some other stats here: Dwayne Haskins, 164 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dak didn't do a whole lot as a passer, 74 yards, but 2 passing touchdowns, good amount of rushing production as well. As far as the pass catchers go, things pretty spread out. Nobody with more than 45 receiving yards, so things pretty spread out. And definitely, it was mostly a Tony Pollard type game with Paul Richardson mixing in there as well. And that is all that we have for today here on the FanDuel Football Multiverse. Back again tomorrow to see what the Giants would look like if they have drafted Sam Darnold instead of Saquon Barkley. Make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube page, get those contests entered, and come back once again tomorrow. For Calvin Theobald and JJ Zachariason, I am Jim Sana saying so long for today. We just saw the Dallas Cowboys defeat Washington 21-14 here on the FanDuel Football Multiverse.